It's late at night when you hear the bump at your door. You unlatch the chain on your hotel room door and peek out into the dark hallway. A ball sits just outside of your door. The sound of a child echoes down the hotel hallway. This is the 4th time this has happened tonight. You close the door to room 217 and go back to your bed. This is going to be a long night. Whether you believe in ghosts or are just a little more on the skeptical side, you can't deny the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado inspires fear, intrigue, and inspiration to guests that stay there. Let's take a look at the hotel's creepy legacy as we visit the Stanley Hotel's haunted history. The Stanley Hotel's past is made up of a combination of provable facts and historical events, scattered with anecdotal evidence, speculation, and hearsay. There are hotel guests and staff accounts of hearing disembodied voices, being touched by something or someone who isn't there, and all types of other strange and unexplainable occurrences. The impressive Stanley Hotel is a classic turn-of-the-century lodge that overlooks the mountain town of Estes Park. The hotel sits just on the outside border of the Rocky Mountain National Park and is purview to the magnificent views of the mountains and valley below. But before the hotel and town were established here, Estes Valley was a majestic landscape with mountain streams and meadows that the Ute and Arapaho tribes called home. The Stanley Hotel's history began with inventor Freeland Oscar Stanley. Stanley was stricken with tuberculosis and felt that he was on the verge of death. Insistent on dying in someplace beautiful, he packed up his life with his wife Flora and moved to Estes Park. He spent the summer enjoying the fresh air, sunshine, and mountain views. After just one summer, though, he found himself miraculously cured. Inspired by the place he felt cured him, Stanley and Flora made plans to build a large hotel in Estes Valley that would feature the grandeur and Edwardian opulence of East Coast establishments, but in a rustic, more Western setting. After years of planning and construction, the hotel opened in 1909. The hotel was a modern marvel for its time, featuring electricity, telephones, and modern bathrooms, while still being surrounded by the rugged wilderness of Colorado. Guests were amazed by the luxury provided by the fully staffed hotel. For decades, the Stanley was seen as a posh, exclusive mountain destination that provided a restful, rejuvenating break for busy East Coast lifestyles. But by the 1970s, the hotel had fallen into grave disrepair due to years of neglect and lack of investment, and had become a shell of its former self. The Stanley was on the verge of being demolished, but fate, it seems, had other plans. Through a bizarre and fateful string of occurrences, a well-known horror author found himself in the now famous room 217. In the 1970s, author Stephen King was working on his book The Stand and living in nearby Boulder, Colorado. One weekend, he and his wife, Tabitha, traveled an hour north to Estes Park for a weekend away from their children. From the valley below, King looked up and saw the Stanley Hotel above on the hill. Needing a place to stay, King and his wife drove up the windy road to the hotel above. There, they found the hotel staff preparing the hotel for the last day of the season, before closing up for the winter. After inquiring for accommodations, the couple found themselves to be the only guests in the hotel that night. After a night at the restaurant and bar, the couple retired to room 217. King fell asleep to the sound of the winter wind whipping past his hotel window. That night, in a vivid nightmare, the author dreamt of a fire hose coming to life and chasing his screaming son as he ran down the halls of the hotel. After waking in a panic, King sat up in his bed and lit a cigarette. After staring outside of the window for a minute, he had the outline for his next book, The Shining, already in his mind. The Stanley's connection to King and the terrifying night that inspired The Shining is probably the hotel's most famous creepy occurrence, but paranormal history goes back before the 1970s, and it also involves room 217. On the night of June 25th, 1911, after the valley experienced a flood, the 2-year-old hotel's power went out for the first time. Freeland Stanley took it upon himself to install a gas lantern in each room to provide the guests with light, and a leak caused a buildup of gas to form in room 217. The head chambermaid, Elizabeth Wilson, entered the room with a lit candle and set off a massive explosion. Wilson miraculously survived and was launched from the room's entrance to the dining hall located on the first floor. An estimated 10% of the hotel wasn't as lucky, and one observer reported seeing a bathtub fly up in the air during the blast. After waking up from a coma, Wilson returned to work in 1913 and remained employed by the hotel until 1950. This is where Wilson's story should end, but it doesn't. According to some hotel guests and staff, her spirit is said to still inhabit room 217, but reports claim that she's typically more helpful than scary. Guests have shared stories of waking up to a room that's tidier than the night before, with their clothes folded and suitcases organized. One couple told staff members at the Stanley that their bed was made up around them during the night. But take note, if you consider staying in the famous hotel and aren't married, you may have the most unrestful night if you choose to stay in room 217. Unmarried couples have reported a chilly presence settling into the bed with them as they've slept. Stanley died in 1940 at the age of 91. But like Wilson, many believe that his presence can still be seen and felt at the hotel, mainly at the bar and in the billiard room. The phantom of his wife, Flora, has a habit of tinkering around with the hotel's piano, according to multiple accounts. Some hotel tour guides believe a ghost of a child wanders the property and plays with guests' hair. Guests on the 4th floor of the Stanley Hotel have shared stories of hearing children's laughter in the hall with no child in sight. Rachel Thomas, a tour supervisor for the Stanley Hotel, claimed she was mysteriously made ill on the 4th floor in a 2021 interview. Creepy happenings like these have made the hotel an internationally famous hotspot for supposed hauntings, and people have traveled from all around the world to stay the night and try to experience the unexplained phenomenon for themselves. Even if you don't believe in life after death and ghosts themselves, the Stanley Hotel has a couple of legitimately creepy locations. These include an on-site pet cemetery, where some of the owner's animals have been laid to rest over the years. Cassie, a friendly golden retriever, is said to still deliver newspapers and scratches at the doors to be let in from outside, despite being buried on the grounds. Plus, a large cave system that is located under the hotel. Why would a hotel need a network of caves, you ask? The reason is that in the early days of the Stanley, it was seen as unprofessional for the staff to be seen by the guests. So employees used the underground pathways to travel between rooms in the hotel's bar, restaurant, and laundry facilities. The ghost of a pastry chef is said to haunt the caves, as evidenced by the alluring and inexplainable scent of baked goods that are frequently reported there. Room 401 is, according to some, the creepiest room in the hotel, and is thought to be haunted by an unfriendly male ghost by some accounts. Women have claimed that they were inappropriately touched by an unknown presence while standing in the room's closet. One man claims he witnessed his wedding ring inexplicably move from the bathroom counter and fall down the drain of the sink in the bathroom. Down the hall in room 407, multiple guests have reported the odd experience of being tucked into bed by some invisible force, and others have felt something sit on the foot of the bed only to find nothing but an indentation on the covers when they switched on the lights. In room 428, some have seen the vision of a cowboy looming over the bed as they slept, or standing in the corner. There aren't any rooms above this room, yet over the years, there have been multiple reports of strange sounds like furniture being moved and footsteps on the ceiling. Even without its paranormal reputation, the Stanley Hotel is a beautiful, fascinating place to visit. But with the potential to experience a haunting firsthand, guests from the world over travel here in hopes of witnessing something profound and unexplainable. If you want to stay at the Stanley, make sure to book ahead in advance. It turns out there are a lot of people who are dying to stay the night. Would you stay the night at the Stanley? Let me know below. This is Broadcaster 7. Are you receiving the night signal?